Welcome and thank you to all of you guys for coming to the awards brunch today. This is my absolute favorite part of the festival, and I should say before we do this that I am a crier. I think I wrote down how many times I cried last year, but I just cried saying thank you to all of you. So that won't be the last time. But again, I just have been so impressed by all of the stories that we have been able to hear throughout this week and the ones that I've been reading all summer and looking at all summer in preparation for this, to be able to invite you all to share them with each other. So I thank you guys for being the ones that are telling the stories and doing the important, authentic work of telling good stories about our region and just doing all the amazing things that you do. I wanted to say, first of all, Tanner, if you can hear me, you can come up here now. I'll explain why in a second. One of the things that we do at this festival is, my goal is to make it as multi-generational as possible. You can tell we value stories in as many forms as we possibly can, with all the art on the wall, the readings that we had yesterday, with music, with photography, with filmmaking. And this is my daughter, Tanner. She is 5, and she woke up this morning and asked me if she could read her comic book that she wrote, and I'm not going to tell her no. Because one of the things with the festival that we want to do is to make it as multi-generational as possible. Last year we had a 2nd grader that read a book, a story that he had written as well. This is Cooper. He probably also wants to make an appearance. So anyway, Tanner wants to read you her comic book.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Just read to me. Yeah. She loves singing. Taylor Swift is afraid to go to kindergarten. Okay. And what happened when she got there? Maybe the cat bit her. And scratched her. And so she was what? Okay. Okay. Kelsey gave her a Band-Aid, which made Taylor very happy. She has hard eyes now and you can't see it, but so then what did?
He said, Petey, stop going like Coleman.
Okay.
Papa's Casey said, I love you.
And so what they do? Taylor was so happy, he defended her, they got
married.
And then you can see her about the author page. She's 5 years old and she makes beautiful drawings. She said that herself. All right, thank you for letting Tanner share her story too. So what we have for you today, you guys all have a program, but we're going to have 3 shorter presentations of people who we've invited to share how they are sharing stories. So first will be Stewart's Opera House, because obviously that is where we are. It is this beautiful facility. They are a just amazing organization, and we are so lucky in Nelsonville that we have them right in the heart of the square. So I'm going to invite Emily Prince up. She's the operations director, and she's going to share a little bit about Stewart's Opera House and all of the amazing things that they do for us.
If this is your first time at Stewart's, can you raise your hand? Right? Okay, friends. Let's welcome all of our new friends. Thank you for coming. Stewart's Opera House is a nonprofit committed to our mission to be a regional leader in the arts community, a center for public expression, and an economic development partner for Southeast Ohio here on the historic land of the Shawnee, Adena, and Hopewell people. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you to Kaylee and the committee and the staff at Stewart's Opera House for making this possible. And thanks for all of you for being here. Incidentally, later on, if you want to take a tour of the theater, we can gather around the door. We'd love to take people upstairs and show off the space. So what do a paper shredder, shoes, an unmarked grave, and a burial ground all have in common? Who was Edward Davis? And what is that pit for? Did you know that for $1.06 you could buy a ticket for a train ride and a show? This is Nelsonville, but what about you? Are you Nelsonville? I'd like you to take 1 minute to answer 2 questions. The first one is, and you've got 30 seconds, so don't edit yourself, and nobody's gonna ask you what your answer is. Like, you don't have to share it with anybody at your table, you just keep it right in your head. It's just for you. What is the first thing you tell people about your hometown? Got it? Second question. What is the first thing you tell people about Nelsonville? Now, I'll ask you this. What happens when we let the people in the community tell their story? What would they say? What would you say? I'd like to read a poem by somewhat recent Nelsonville, York High School graduate named Nevaeh Gonzalez, which was featured in our poetry collection, Nelsonville A to Z, edited by Celeste Parsons, which is in the gift shop, by the way. B is for bricks. The streets glitter with the shining star bricks. 6 points make the star. The rough and grainy texture makes your hands tingle. The evermore shining star is a sure reminder of happiness. You will never fail to recognize where you are. Follow the star brick road and you will end up back home. Shining star bricks may be dull, but as if bright suns, they light up Nelsonville. Stars provide hope and comfort. Bricks build the foundation of a home. Star bricks show you are home and welcome, always offering a way to go home. Who am I? I'm the operations director at Stewart's Opera House, and I've made a choice to live and work in Athens County, a community ravaged by coal and clay companies' history of extractions, now populated by people who are left with only our fierce love of place. What I love about supporting the Appalachian Literary Arts and Storytelling Festival is Kaylee's leadership into a momentous push toward a citizen-led presentation of place and strengthening of our creative economy. Practicing artists, teaching artists, and community members are empowered to teach and present their art and be provided with opportunities to reach new audiences. Alas supports the helpers and will bring us all together to build a healthy, thriving community where everyone who chooses to be belongs. At Stewart's, one of the ways we work to increase participation and build community is through our arts education program. We've developed a program where performance is an outcome and not the goal. We're helping to guide our students to be compassionate citizens, good listeners, communicators, and participants in the wider world. They need to be heard and to be seen as themselves in a world where they can honor their culture, especially when that culture doesn't fit into the preferred national narrative of poor rural voters. Because if we are successful in our mission work, we lose the advantage of language like underserved, poorest, least, and lacking. But we fulfill our mission all the same. In the fall of 2016, Stewart's presented a creative writing program, Wendy, supported by the Ohio Arts Council and the Rocky Community Improvement Fund. The goal was to create a space for participants to communicate and express community identity and to evolve multicultural awareness. The class provided an opportunity for area seniors to interact and engage in their community and to challenge themselves creatively. As a part of the program, we facilitated the creation of a community poem, I Remember. So think about what you remember now. What do you remember about the smell of the store the first time you had your own money to buy candy? What do you remember about the place you moved to when you were an adult? What was the color of the sky on the morning the van drove in? By listening to our community, we continue to build. The socioeconomic divide in Nelsonville is a complex issue. There's a wealthy population that seeks out the arts education opportunities, and recognizes how these opportunities add to the value of their lives. Our city also includes a number of individuals living in poverty, which limits their capacity to seek out and access opportunities in school and out. Both communities dehumanize each other. Some are referred to as zombies and thieves, while others are not from here, royalty, or out of touch. Everyone is categorized as other, but how and where are we the same? This storytelling festival answers that question. Through these festival experiences, we will work to offer an opportunity to discover these unique approaches to understanding human values, as well as reveal and recognize both the differences and the connections across disciplines and culture. And we're very grateful to participate in this festival. Thank you, Kelly. I didn't bring my program with me, so I don't know who's next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Oh, great, thanks. Okay, hey, you know me. Hi. Yes, please, come on up and tell us. Do you have things to say? Do you want to start, Moschell? Okay. True. Okay, bye.
Awesome. Okay, yes. Thank you, Emily. That's fantastic. I was organizing my children's casual exit back to my house. So next we have Moschell. She's from True Pigments, and True Pigments is really special to me because when they started several years ago, I was in the area, and I am not a professional artist, I'm a teacher. I teach 8th grade English at Logan Hocking Middle School up the road. Most of our committee is actually teachers. Brianna is also a teacher with me. She teaches 7th grade, she's over at the merch table. Thanks, Brianna. And then Casey is my husband, he's standing by the door. He teaches at Nelsonville York High School. And then we'll talk more about the rest of our committee later on. But Emily's a huge part of that, and Josh Zielinski is here in the audience as well. Leah Birnbaum is also on our committee. All of these people, our committee kind of exploded this year, so it's been really great. But anyway, back to True Pigments. A few years ago when I saw that they had started and saw what they were doing, which I'll let her explain, it just was really special to me because I love doing art and creating art. I love painting, I love all of that stuff, and I also feel a really close affinity to the Trimble, Gloucester, Chansey area because I spent a lot of my college time there coaching and doing some ministry work and other things. And so when I saw what True Pigments was doing and how they were taking something so complex and difficult and making it something that anybody could make really beautiful, I thought that was one of the most powerful stories that I've ever heard. So Moschell, she's going to come up and tell you a little bit more about that.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm happy to be here with you and hear some of the stories. I wish I could have come yesterday too because it sounds like it was such a wonderful day. As Kaylee mentioned, I don't mind. As Kaylee mentioned, my name is Moschell Shively McIver. I work for Rural Action, which is a nonprofit that is centered here in Athens County, but we do work throughout all of the Appalachian counties in the state. We have lots of partnerships throughout the region, and we, at our heart, are a sustainable economic and community development organization. We choose to do that work and to try to work towards our vision of this region through different sectors, one of which is watershed restoration. So a lot of the work that we do does have an environmental restoration or an environmental slant to it, but we're doing all of that work to try to create a region where we can have thriving communities and places where people don't have to go away, that people can find their place and their work and their livelihood here with their families. Through that, we also see thriving forests and family farms, healthy water. And so that last piece, the healthy water, is what I'm really going to focus on today. How many of you all have seen orange water, orange streams running through your home place or just, around here? Okay. So now just take a minute and imagine that all the Appalachian streams run clear. Fish, aquatic bugs, all those macroinvertebrates, little crayfish, everybody's happy. People are happy too because they live in communities that run, a clean stream runs through. It's not orange. There's not these scars, this lasting environmental legacy of the extractive industries that did come through, and there was that boom phase, right? But then there was the bust. And so that is part of our story as folks who live in Appalachian, Ohio. And I have to say, I grew up in Dayton. My grandma's from Athens County. She grew up in Coolville and had to leave her home to find a job after she graduated high school. So she found her way to Dayton. That's where I grew up, where my mom grew up. But I found my way back home to Athens County. And I do feel like that. I feel like Athens County is my home. I just didn't grow up here. So I think we find our way to the places that we're meant to be. What I want to tell you about is how we are changing the story about acid mine drainage and about this one particular aspect, one particular environmental legacy that is lasting and has been for, in some cases, over 100 years. Some of our streams in Athens, Perry, Morgan, Hocking, Vinton, all of our counties, they've run orange. And that is from the abandoned coal mines that dot the landscape here. And we're not alone. In Appalachia, more than 6,000 streams actually are impacted by acid mine drainage. It's probably more than that. Those are just the ones that are cataloged. And some of the issues that come from that is the high acidity in the water, and also the concentrations of metals like iron and aluminum, things that make it really hard for life to live in streams. And I think that's what we really want. We want all of our ecosystem to be thriving, because we really feel like healthy people need healthy environments, and healthy communities need healthy natural resources. And so we're kind of trying to get back to the root issues that we have there so that we can bring the economics, the economic prosperity that we'd like to see for our communities. We want to start with bringing back the quality of our natural resources. True Pigments is a business that Rural Action created about 5 years ago, and it is a for-profit entity. So far, we're really not making any money, but hopefully we will. We created this business so that we would have the opportunity to really be the partner that carried this piece of our project. And so even though our business is wholly owned by Rural Action, so that guides our vision, what we hope to do is to create a pigment product from the orange stuff, from the bad stuff, from the pollutant. We hope to be able to turn that into a valuable commodity and be able to sell that on the market and use that money to funnel back into more watershed restoration. So we are very hopeful that we can change the story. And already we've changed the narrative just by kind of flipping that switch and turning pollution into an asset. So at Rural Action, we like to tell our story through a lens of asset-based community development. And we like to focus on the things that we have, not the things that we lack. And so all of those things, all the different types of capital are so important to go into that. So when we think about this problem, what for years we just saw as the issue and the problem, we've been able to really flip that and see the opportunity that lies within that to turn it into something valuable, and as Kaylee said, something that we can really use to make more beauty in the world. So not only are we going to clean up the water, which makes those ecosystems and those streams more beautiful, but also the resulting product from that orange pollution is going to make paints and building materials and things that can really add beauty to the world through a productive use. Right now, we are able to make these 3 different colors. There's a yellow ochre color, a rusty red, and then that earth violet color, which is really beautiful. We're currently working with Campbell Artist Colors in Portland, Oregon, to create a box set of 3 oil paints that of these 3 colors that we've sold thousands of sets all across the world, and it's really exciting to see that part of our story making it into really far-flung corners of the globe. Like any story, we have to know where it's happening, where the place is. So even though acid mine drainage affects all of Southeast Ohio, anywhere where there are abandoned coal mines, we are focusing our efforts in the Sunday Creek watershed. So near Millfield, where you have a site, Rural Action purchased 50 acres at the worst acid mine drainage discharge in the state of Ohio. And the day that we bought that was very exciting. You've never seen people more excited to own like a really terrible environmental disaster area before. Everybody was joking with me. They're like, I think that you're gonna go like swim in it today. Are you just gonna go like dunk yourself in the discharge or something? But we're off Truetown Road, and right now we are operating a small-scale research pilot plant at the site. And we're able to create the iron sludge, create some of that pigment, and we are actively sending that out as samples to businesses who may be interested in buying the end product. We're working on a full-scale design. This discharge site, let's see. So the orange water here that you see, that pumps out at over 1,000 gallons per minute from this one site that is just a big hole that is an old air shaft or a pumping station for the old underground mine, AS-193. And that particular site was sealed up in the 1960s. And then in the mid-80s, the water started breaking through. The mine seal ruptured, and then we had like a small-scale geyser for a little while. Then it started flooding the neighbors, it started flooding the farm field, and the state and the Office of Surface Mining came in and built a channel to get that water off. But in that time, that 40-some years, there's been no treatment at the site. So we're excited to be able to treat 1.4 million gallons of water every day at full scale. And with that, 6,000 pounds of iron come into the Sunday Creek every single day. So 3 tons of iron every day. It's a lot of material, and it's a big, complex issue. So when we first started looking at how we could treat this, we had to bring on partners. So these are the characters in our story. There's me and there's Kenny. Kenny Roberts is our operations manager. We're the 2 folks who work on this project for Rural Action, with a lot of support from Debbie and our whole team. At Ohio University, we've been working with Dr. Guy Riefler and John Sabral. John is an artist who tells our story so beautifully through his paintings and through his words and explanations of what drives him to create that art. And then Dr. Guy Riefler is an environmental engineer, professor in the civil engineering department at OU. And Guy speaks more in pH and metal concentrations, and that too is a very important part of our story. I feel like the reason that we've been able to move this project forward is because we do have such a strong team of partners and folks who all have different resources and different expertise and different ways of communicating what we need and how we can move forward. All of our partners, including Department of Natural Resources, the University, Sugarbush Foundation here locally, the Office of Surface Mining, the J.M. Kaplan Fund, Social Enterprise Ecosystem, and many more. All of these folks have really helped us move forward to the point where we are expecting a final design for our full-scale treatment facility by the end of this year, and hopefully moving forward, starting construction in the spring of next year. So that reality that when I asked you all to imagine a region of clean streams and that all those orange streams are clear, at least one of them should be in the next couple of years, in thanks to this project that we're working on right now. 7 miles of Sunday Creek are currently impacted. And unfortunately, that is the story that I have to tell right now. Those 7 miles are still impacted, even after years of research and effort and investment trying to get to the point where we can treat that. But our hope is that that won't always be our story. And we're trying to really take ownership and make the story what we want it to be for our region, and in our case, for our watershed. So with that 7 miles of stream, we will actually improve not just the bottom section of Sunday Creek, but because we'll connect it to the Hocking River, then we'll actually improve the biological community of the entire 143 square mile watershed, because now those smaller streams and the rest of Sunday Creek will be connected to the Hocking River. We'll have fish and bugs just making their merry way up and down and through and out and back into the Hocking, and that's just not happening right now. One of the things that I think is so powerful is when we bring more people into our story. And so with this project, we have, I think it resonates with people because it is hopeful and it is innovative. And the idea of taking the problem and making it into the solution, even if you don't live in a place where there's acid mine drainage and you have orange streams, you could probably think of another issue and think, how could I turn the problem into the solution? How could I flip that and try to find some value in this issue that I'm trying to deal with? And how do we change the narrative so that we can move forward on an innovative solution? So I think that piece of our story, even though it is very place specific, you know, I tell people what I do and they're like, if they're not from here, I'm like, that's kind of weird. You clean up like orange water from abandoned coal mines, that's very specific, you know? Very, very specific. So even if that's not your reality here, our story can still be hopeful, it can still be inspiring to people all across the nation and all across the world. So we have really gotten a lot of attention from this project. We had a groundbreaking out at the True Town site back in June 2023, right before we did phase 1 construction. We had 93 people show up to just an empty farm field and celebrate with us that we were gonna move a bunch of dirt there. And that's really exciting because people really do value what we're trying to do. We have, there's been several documentaries and really, you know, most of them fairly short, but there was a movie called Toxic Art that's I think like 15 minutes long that was created a couple years back by some folks from Michigan, and we've had a lot of people who've seen that film and been interested in the work that we're doing from all across the country. Some of John's paintings. So we're so lucky to have John Sobral on our team because we have really beautiful ways to try to tell our story in different ways. And as much as I love fish and the ecosystem, and that's where my heart is, I could talk about the recovery for hours, that's not everyone's cup of tea. And honestly, very few people that I've ever met have gotten truly excited over the pH of the water in Sunday Creek and talking about it at length. But the thing that is kind of universal is people love looking at beautiful things. And so John's artwork is kind of an equalizer and a way to get our project in front of almost everyone. We'll take a second and look at some of his beautiful paintings. This one was a commission. It now lives in the new engineering building over at OU. And I want to draw your attention to the top left corner. This is a zoomed in version of that. So sometimes, you know, the details of the story are very important. And this is the left-hand corner of that. The gold outlines that is the mine map of AS-193, which is the underground mine that is currently feeding the True Town discharge. So John works these details into all of his artwork to tell our story from the beginning, the extractive industry, all the way through to what we're trying to do to facilitate the recovery of these ecosystems. We also hope to invite other people into our story once we have the facility built and all of the work done on site. We're planning a wetland area for the lower part of the property where we'll open that to the public and have walking trails and interpretive signage, native plants, hopefully a gathering space under some kind of pavilion or outlook structure. So we're really excited about all the things that we'll have to offer. Another way to tell our stories is through the numbers, which isn't always exciting, but it is impactful. You know, there's, like I said, 7 miles of Sunday Creek will be restored once our full-scale facility is built. That's 1.4 million gallons every day that will be treated. 6,000 pounds of iron. We've sold some paint sets. We have some mine pool wells where we are actively monitoring the water quality. And more than 100 people every year visit the True Town site right now. And that's before we haven't even built anything there. So there's a bunch of orange water and there's a big field right now. And people want to see it, they want to be part of it. So I think that also is really, people want to be involved in the story even when it's not finished yet. And I think that's where we are now. I get asked to talk about True Pigments a lot and to tell our story. And it's not finished because we haven't done what we set out to do yet. We haven't cleaned up the 7 miles of Sunday Creek that we envision, but we're close. And recovery is possible. It wouldn't be me if I didn't have a slide with some fish and bugs on it, so here it is. You know, we see that our vision can come true, and we're so excited to build on the work that we've already done with partners like the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and Office of Surface Mining, Raccoon Creek Partnership, all of the watershed groups and the local folks who have been part of that effort for the last 30 years. We have seen acid mine drainage streams come back to life. It is possible, and we know it's possible in Sunday Creek as well. Another part of our vision is to have kids in the creek and be able to find those fish and the bugs that they want to find, salamanders, all the good stuff. So in conclusion, you know, creating colors for a cleaner world is our tagline for True Pigments, but it's you know, just one part of the story. Creating paint, none of us, maybe John, but none of the rest of us ever started out like trying to make paint out of this stuff. You know, Dr. Riefler started his research early on in his time here at Ohio University, trying to figure out how to clean up these really big NMD discharges. Real Action's been working with local folks and partners for 30 years, trying to figure out how to bring life back to these streams and to communities through that. And you know, the paint and the pigment is just really the means to that end, to that vision of healthy water and clean streams. And we're just really, really grateful for all the folks who have helped us get to this point in the story and who will help us get to that end. Thank you.
Moschell, and this will be relevant a little bit later, but Moschell actually brought 3 of the paint sets of the True Pigment paint colors. So even though I want to take them all home and keep them for myself, we did purchase them from True Pigments, and we're going to award them to the top 3 places for the art exhibit. So when we announce those later, you'll be able to pick those up from the table in the back. So our third presentation that is on the paper was not able to make it today. So I want to take a little bit of time now to acknowledge the sponsors that we have, and we have a little something for those people in the room. And then I have one other thing I know that I'm going to talk about, and I'm sure I'll remember it by the time I know the sponsors. Okay, so Brianna. One of the people on our committee is Jamie Coons, and she owns the Candle Lady company that's down the street. And she just organized all of our vendors and everything for the festival this year. It was really nice having her on the committee because anytime I said, I need to think of something to do for this raffle or this sponsor gift or this fill in the blank, she'd be like, oh yeah, let me do it, I'll bring it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great, thank you. So Jamie is wonderful, and the Candle Lady company is where all of these sponsor gifts are going to come from. So the first one is FAO, the Foundation for Appalachian, Ohio. Their beautiful building is right across the square. You can see it out the windows. They sponsored all of our last minute kind of things, and they also just gave us a really great award at their fundraising event at the State House last fall for us to use to get started for this year. So they've been a huge support for Brianna and I especially. Let's see here. The library, the Nelsonville Public Library, they sponsored, Athens County Public Libraries, I should say, they sponsored Anne's keynote today, which while I'm bringing that up, I'm sure some of you noticed that Anne's not here. She emailed us this morning and she is actually sick with COVID, so she was unable to make it, but she is going to be Zooming, so she'll be on the screen. She's going to start off, and then Brianna is going to finish reading for her, and then she'll be available if anybody has questions. She still wants to be able to be as present as she can be, but she said her voice and coughing is just a little bit too much to be able to read it on her own. So we'll pull her up here in a few minutes. The Friends of the Library, they were the ones that sponsored Anne, and then the library itself sponsored Megan B's keynote last night. So they were another one of our huge sponsors. People's Bank, they gave us a good sponsorship. Farmers Bank also sponsored the festival, and they also hosted Josh's photography exhibit. He does a lot of really cool farm photography with old farms along the Hocking River. And he goes out and interviews the families and takes really beautiful pictures of them. And I believe, sorry Josh if I'm not supposed to say this, I believe he is working towards potentially putting it into a book. I keep saying that any chance that I can in hopes that he actually does because I want it, because his photography is so beautiful. But that'll be up for a while, so if any of you are around and pop into the bank, we're really grateful for Farmers Bank for sponsoring us as a festival and allowing us to put that up. Rocky Brands, the big boot factory here in town, they gave us a good sponsorship. And Dave Logie Insurance, he's here. So, do you want to come up and get yours, Dave? Or do you want us to bring it to you? I can bring it to you. Dave sponsored us this year too. We're really grateful for that. Shriver's Pharmacy, Fred Wolf Automotive, and then, of course, Stewart's Opera House. It's huge, just partner, sponsor, all the things in Monday Creek Publishing, which we'll talk about here in a little bit when we get to our manuscript contest. But Mark, can we give you the Monday Creek one? Thank you. Mark Dean is here to help us present the publishing contract later on, but we're really grateful for them coming alongside us in this. So we have there are a lot of other organizations and people that donated supplies or gave us grants and other things, and you can see all their names on these sponsor boards, which were painted by students at Nelsonville York High School, built by their wood shop, and we're really grateful for Josh Woodburn and Sam Campbell and for all the work that they have done to help with the picnic tables, and they made all the the stands that the Foodways poems are on around the room. So we're grateful that every time that I say, hey, I really wish that I had this thing, but I don't have time to make it, and I also don't have the ability to, so can you guys do that for us? And they just give me this really awesome smile and say, okay. So another thing that I want to bring up is Lily Paris. Lily, if you're in here, can you come up here? I know you are in here, I just don't know where. There you are, okay. So Lily's gonna come up and I'll let Brianna talk about her a little bit.
This year, one of the things that we really wanted to do was be able to branch out with our marketing to use film. And both Kaylee and I were like, we're not sure if we're the best people to do this, so we wanted to bring on an intern. So Lillian applied to be our intern, and we looked at her work, and we were like, yes, please. So she has been working with us, creating some great film for our social media, and we're going to actually show a couple of them today as part of our brunch presentation. And we just wanted to recognize Lily and thank her for all of her hard work this year as our film intern.
That I want to do before we get to Anne here is recognize our full committee real quick. Obviously, I'm Kaylee, so I'm the one that has been emailing all of you a lot, and I appreciate all of your grace with me in that. And this is Brianna. Brianna and I like to say, you can see she's wearing a blazer and she looks really awesome and she's super put together. And that is how the festival comes together, because she's our logistics queen and she takes all of my crazy ideas and says, okay, yes, if you really want that insane thing to happen, then these are the things we have to do to make it that way. So really, I'm really grateful for Brianna not just telling me no, saying, okay, but, this is what you're gonna have to do. And I'm just like, okay. So, yes, it's been really fun working with Brianna. Jan Fuller, she's a poet from Hocking County, and she kind of started this with me early on last year. And she's unable to be here today, but she's a huge part in all of the contests. She's the one that kind of helped think those up and all the opportunities that we could put forth this year to help get stories out. So I wanted to acknowledge her. Leah Birnbaum is the one that does our website, so all of the website decorations and organization and all of that, design, I should have said, design, and organization, she did all of this year. And then Casey is over there. He has pretty much just done everything that I knew needed to be done, but I didn't want to have to do myself. And also a lot of other really great things. He's had a lot of good ideas for switching some things up and doing some things differently. So I'm really grateful for him. I mentioned Jamie already, doing all the vendors. Jennifer LaRue, she's going to come up and you'll get to hear from her later. But she helped make all of the mugs and the merch and the Deni awards that you'll see later. But she also just has a lot of really great expertise in doing events like this and making them run smoothly. And she's really encouraging and a really joyful person to have around you in stressful situations. So I'm really grateful for Jen. And then Emily Prince over there, you guys heard from her earlier. She is the one that helps organize all of the things that know nothing about, like tech and staff people that put all the stuff on. And obviously in organizing us using all the spaces that we could here at Stewart's, and just answering all of my last minute questions where I'd say, okay, I have a problem. It won't be a problem until tomorrow, but how should we address it? And she would say, okay, these are our options. We will talk through them later. And I would say, okay. It was all good. So I appreciate her calm leadership as well. And then we have Mary Weinberg, who she is from, how do I describe this? Mary, where are you at? There, she's in the back, hello. Mary contacted us because she works with the Appalachian Writers Conference in Berea, Kentucky. And she had reached out and said she was interested in helping, and she's just been a great resource for us in working through the publishing contract contest that we have this year, and just a bunch of other really great things. And the second place for our manuscript contest is going to get a free registration to that conference, and they've discounted it for us a little bit too, and it's really nice that we've had her expertise and all of that to be able to offer that and help out with this year's festival. And then last but not least, we had Dan Huang. If you went to any of the workshops yesterday, you would have seen him. He was kind of emceeing those, and he's a writer. He's worked he's working on a book right now. He's written a bunch of articles for several major news organizations, and just has a lot of really great contacts in the writing arena that we were able to meet with and talk with in planning this year. So all that to say, our mighty committee of 5 last year has grown tremendously, and we are always looking for more people that want to join the team. So I think that brings me to, is there anything else I was going to say? All right, so we're going to start with Ann here in a few minutes, but we're going to give her time to join and all of that. So if any of you would like to hop up and stretch your legs, go to the restroom, grab anything that you would like, and refill in your water, orange juice, go ahead, and we'll get started back here a little before 12:30.
Casey Cox, my Kaylee's husband. I have the honor of introducing Ann Pancake up here for the keynote. A couple things about me. I teach over at Naffziger High School. One of the electives I teach is Appalachian literature. So in that, we learn about the history of our area, but also kind of examine the representation of our area. And we do that through honoring the voices of great authors like Ann Pancake through reading their excerpts and short stories. So it's a blessing to have her voice and her story in our class to teach the kids in Nelson, New York, just about our culture, our history, and just the tradition of what it means to be Appalachian. So I'm going to share with you the bio for Ann real quick, and then I'll let the keynote take it away. But Ann Pancake is a native of West Virginia. She's published 2 award-winning short story collections and a novel, Strange as This Weather Has Been, which was one of Kirkus Review's top 10 fiction books of the year, and won the Weatherford Prize for the best book in Appalachia. Her stories, essays, and scholarships have appeared in venues like Orion, the Georgia Review, Poets and Writers, and the Journal of Appalachian Studies. She taught creative writing at several universities before becoming a freelance writer. She lives in Preston County, West Virginia.
Thank you for the introduction. I want to apologize so much for not being there. It was quite a shock when I woke up with COVID yesterday morning. But I want to thank everyone, especially Kaylee, for her flexibility and her making it possible for me to still be there in this way without infecting everybody. So welcome and thank you everybody for coming. I hope you had a great day yesterday. I sure wish I could have been there. And so I know that Kaylee, we have someone to read part of it, right? To read the keynote. Is that you?
Hi.
Okay. Well, Brianna, I think what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is go ahead and start myself and read several pages before I start losing my voice or coughing, and then I'll hand it over to you, and then at the end I'll be happy if we have time to take questions and stuff. So, and Brianna, thank you so much for doing this. So I think that you guys in the audience should have some handouts. Okay. So the way that I'm going to start the talk is I'm going to read one of the poems that's in the handouts, and it's a Steve Scafidi poem, The Hillbilly Breakdance and the Talking Crow. So if you want to pull that up, I'm going to read that, and y'all can read along. So this is Steve Scafidi, Hillbilly Breakdance and the Talking Crow. Steve is a West Virginia poet, and he's from over towards Ohio. I think he's on this side of the Ohio River. So the school bus skids around the mountain and kills my friend's dog almost instantly, and Lester in the back seat sticks his face out the window to say, "Don't eat that dog, he's dead meat," and laughs, and that was long ago. And Lester lives in the mountain ghetto where the rich have not yet ruined the land with their paper mansions, and he is hillbilly wild as a teenager and learns to break dance and locks and pops and turns and rocks like a robot on summer nights, drunk under the Christmas lights of his back porch, where we watch as Lester works through his routine. And once he moonwalked right off the edge and dropped down hard into the honeysuckle and the blue rocks of the place and sprung back to his feet and said, "I'm all right, goddammit," and shinning back up to move some more. And so it is not hard to believe. Lester banged out of his house last week, bored on a Sunday afternoon in August, and wandered in the woods of the mountain as if through some cathedral so dark with leaves and fiddlehead ferns that light only reaches the ground through 1,000 little tunnels. And suddenly, at his feet, hop, hop, hopping along, comes a crow who says, "All right then, all right. Hey, how are you?" And Lester stops. "All right then, how are you?" says the crow again, and cocks its head and looks up with his beady eye at Lester, who looks away. Trucks rumble down the mountain hard in the distance, and an airplane starts to make a sharp curve a mile above, but they don't know any more about the world for a minute. Lester and the crow talking a while. He says, just shooting the breeze. He says that crow knew the names of his father and his grandfather and all kinds of personal shit. And it said, "Lester, look at you. You've grown middle-aged and fat, but I like you anyways," and flew back into the trees just to let him think about it. And 6 other people have talked to this crow, and now it is legend. And that is why I am sitting in the Mount Hebron cemetery with a picnic lunch and waiting while the story does its thing, I guess. Flying from tree to tree, chasing owls, maybe looking for something shiny, which is why I have lined up 10 dimes and a safety pin on the stone wall. To attract some magic, to call down the blessing of an impossible thing. All right then, it is getting darker. Let the new life begin. So Kaylee asked me to talk about how one can tell authentic Appalachian stories. And I think Hillbilly Breakdance and the Talking Crow is a quintessential authentic Appalachian story, or actually stories, and that the story is really stories, multiple stories, wrapped up in one story, crow, magic, dog, breakdancing. Maybe that's another authentic Appalachian story characteristic. It reminds me of something I hear myself saying to my partner, and she always laughs, even though I don't mean it to be funny. Remind me to tell you a story after I finish this one. If you grew up in Appalachia or live here, I mean really live here, not just live on top of here, you've probably been immersed, whether you are conscious of it or not, in experiences that make Appalachians some of the country's, heck, the world's finest storytellers. Our history, our culture, and our place are rich with qualities that alchemize into unique and extraordinary storytelling art. And what qualities am I talking about? Oral storytelling is still alive in Appalachia in ways it is not in many other places. I've lived in a lot of other places, and I learned. You grow up in small town in rural Appalachia like I did, you hear endless stories. You hear them all the time. Hunting stories and wreck stories and flood stories and dog stories. Notice Steve Scaffidi's poem hits the wreck genre and the dog genre and puts a twist on the hunting genre. I heard stories about rats running up your pants and biting your privates, and about snakes who stole cow's milk, and people who burned heavy metal records and Satan threw them back out of the fire. And that doesn't count all the stories that are commonly called just gossip, but that feed a storyteller anyway. I mean, just last month, in the courthouse paying my taxes, I heard a man tell about a Jack Russell Terrier so hyper it could run horizontally around room walls. And a day or two after that, the nurse at the clinic I go to told me how in their old building, which was a double wide, which was a funeral home before it was a clinic, in that ex-funeral home clinic, they would hear a grandfather clock apparition chiming the hours. And I know a lot of you too could retell right now a good story you've heard just within the last couple weeks. There's also the innovation in the music in our language. As a kid, I heard inventive and metaphoric and beautiful language, brilliant turns of phrase. I had a first grade teacher I adored who threatened us when we were bad that she'd skin us alive. A father who made up names for things if he didn't know what they were. He'd say, "I call that a goggle-eye," or "Look, there's a land crab." I listened to other kids talk about squirrel warbles and snake doctors and hoop snakes. Now those are examples of the original and the weird and the wild, but you also want to bear in mind the beauty too, how the weird and wild can also be beautiful. And how it's not just words that are beautiful, it's the cadence, the melody of our language, the accent too. Listen to Hillbilly Breakdance again. The bottom of the first page. Along comes a crow who says, "All right then, all right, how are you?" And Lester stops. "All right then, how are you?" says the crow again and cocks its head and looks up with its beady eye at Lester, who looks away. And I also want to introduce you to West Virginia writer Jessie Van Eerden when we're talking about the beauty of our language here, if you don't already know her work. And I have in the handout that I gave you all a passage from her novel Call It Horses, if you want to bring that up. And I need to set this up a little bit to give you some insight into the tension in the passage. The narrator here is married to the character Clay, who you'll see in the passage, but who she wants, who she desires, is the character Stu, who's in here. So I'm starting to get short on my throat, so I'm gonna ask Brianna to go ahead and pick up reading for me on this passage. And Brianna, you can read a little shorter than what I'll put it, just if you do a couple paragraphs. But as she reads, please listen to the cadence and the music of this, and her subtle use of dialect in both syntax and in diction. Thank you, Brianna.
I knew and understood myself in work. I could still smell the pungent squash vine from the morning hour. I was eager to handle bark and brush, and in that eagerness, the air grew familiar and good in the cab. We didn't need to agree on rolling down the windows, despite the chill. We let the September wind wrap us, and the core pole in me that carried the surge up and down to chest and neck heated like a coil, like the engine as Clay shifted into fourth, headed east on Hollow Road, toward the edge of Rex and Miranda's farm, where the good locust trees had fallen in a storm, the hard wood that burned almost as hot as coal, Clay said. Heat gathered in Clay's hand upon my leg. Stu watched the world pass. I felt stripped down to that radiating coil once we pulled in the tram road cockeyed and parked and spilled out to start the work. I left the gloves I had refused balled up on the vinyl seat, tied back my thick hair, shed the flannels, pushed up the sleeves of the long underwear shirt to carry the firewood bare-armed. I worked with speed and hum, each bending of my body alert to the scent of the saw's two-cycle oil, the burn and the sawdust, the men's awareness of me. Stu acquiesced to smoke silently with me as Clay cut, and when the saw shut off, we all picked up and attacked the full cord in the bed. If the pieces were small, I took them in twos, and the knocking together of the locusts sounded musical, like thick wind chimes, a deep tone in all that dense grain. My biceps tensed. I knew they watched. My forearms went taut. Dust gathered in the arm hair, and the surge centered and swelled in my abdomen, pelvis, up the thighs. A capacity opened up. My groin heated as I squatted in the dust for another piece. We worked until the evening dews started to fall, and we could feel it on our faces. I tasted cigarettes and the salted roasted seed bits working free from in between my teeth. When it was time, I said I'd drive. Clay took the middle, and I drove too fast given the weight in the pickup's bed, but Clay said nothing. At the house, I lumbered to the truck a little off the road since Stu's red pickup barred the way to the woodshed. He offered to move it and then help unload and stack.
Thank you so much, Brianna. If you want to keep reading, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to continue with Anne's word from her keynote. If you're Appalachian, you've likely spent time around unique people, often storytellers themselves. Unique people of many sorts, not just one sort, which is important to remember for what I'll say later about characters and caricatures. When I was little in Summersville, West Virginia, for example, we had next door to us an older lady we called Aunt Ruthie, who lived in a magical house with a revolving wall bookcase, an upstairs studio where she painted pictures, a monkey carved from a poisonous nut from some faraway place, and lots of bridge nicks and fresco. Then I could walk with my dad about half a mile from Aunt Ruthie's to visit Mr. Nutter, an untalking man who lived an 1800s lifestyle. No car, so you'd see him walking through the neighborhood to the grocery store with a big gunny sack on his back. He lived in an unpainted two-story house where he raised a giant garden and pigs in a spooky little shed. We know that if you grow up in rural Appalachia, you probably didn't grow up with the racial diversity you might in a city. But it's important to remember that we grew up with some other diversity many white suburban and urban people didn't. We grew up among people from different socioeconomic classes, and that's less likely for middle class and wealthy people in suburbs and cities where neighborhoods are usually segregated by class. We also may have known more disabled people than your average suburban American knew, and we probably spent time around people older than us, a kind of generational diversity that can be rare in dominant American culture. These experiences with different people can make you humble and grateful, can foster empathy, can make you fight harder against social injustice. And all those things, in turn, contribute to good storytelling. Of course, another quality that makes us storytellers is our famous sense of place, our connection to the land in Appalachia. When I moved back to West Virginia 7 years ago, I wondered if the young people here still had that attachment to place. I kind of suspected they didn't. But I learned from my students real quick that their rootedness in this place, for better or for worse, was as real as it was for me when I was their age. If you're Appalachian, you might have grown up spending all kinds of time in the woods and in the creeks, dreaming up crazy games there with your brothers and sisters and cousins and friends, following around parents or grandparents who taught you names of things outside and laid into you not to ever give up the land. Maybe you grew up like me, loving a river that gave me ear infections and boils, drinking iron water and eating deer and squirrel, which takes us back to those warbles I mentioned. It's important to remember that we understand place isn't just setting, it's relationship, it's culture. And the land itself, places in it, call up all kinds of stories. Maybe it also carries voices, maybe even songs. On top of all those storytelling riches, there's also our sense of humor, our quirkiness. There's our fraught emotions about this place, the deep attachment to here, and the just as deep yearning to leave here, or even better, for a here that is more just, less exploited, less poor. It's our perpetual underdogness. It's our being told all our lives we're not as good as other people, which makes us want to prove we are. And it's how, when you were little, you probably don't have access to visual art, theater, dance, but you could always get a hold of a pencil and paper. And you could always corner your younger cousins and brothers and sisters in the basement or the barn or the porch or a hideout and make them listen to your stories. And if, like I did, you spent hours and hours bored in church, you might have had a whole lot of practice telling stories in your head. Here we are with all these riches. So how do we do them justice, do Appalachia justice in our own storytelling? How do we tell our stories instead of the stories told about us that unfortunately we've been swallowing all our lives? How do we tell our stories and not the stories that dominant culture, especially commercial culture, wants to reward us for telling what may be only shadows of our real stories? Maybe shallow, easily digestible counterfeits, or perverse fabulations, or cute, folksy, Cracker Barrel renditions of what and who we really are. I've been writing about this place for over 40 years and have had to starve off those shadow stories myself, and I've learned some things about how to push past them to stories more real. First, look close and deep and see what's here, not what you've been taught is here by all those other stories. And I mean look close and deep at both the people you tell about and at the narratives you use. Stereotype and caricature usually have a kernel of truth, but when you resort to them, you're not getting past the paint. Think depth perception. Be patient, sink in, inhabit, and feel empathy for those inside your story as you create that story and tell that story. Treat place the same way, not just as background. And be cautious that you are not carrying your characters in place in a thin, overtold narrative. I want now to read you a story, a letter poem, that hollers back to a recent story most Americans fell for, hook, line, and sinker, even when we shouted at the top of our lungs that it was fake. It's by poet Torley Bush from his book For a Redbird. And as you listen, notice how it's about injustice, but it also has those other qualities I mentioned, like place, deep people, and glorious language. The name of this poem is J.D. So this is in the packet as well. And you'll see it starts with J.D. It's a letter poem. And before I read today, I looked up this author, and you can actually hear him read this on Instagram and TikTok, so we'll try to share that on our social media because his reading of it is very powerful. J.D. In some ways, our stories are alike. I was also raised by my white grandparents in Webster Springs, West Virginia, from the time I was 7 years old. I'm black. Before your mind trails off too far, Dad's white, Mom's black. She died in the after of childbirth, brain aneurysm, from having sickle cell anemia. Dad was in the Navy at the time. Going with his parents was eventually the best option. I had a good life, I can admit that. I had some kind of anomalous privilege of growing up well off because James Lee Bush Sr., my grandfather, worked and retired from coal mining. I wanted to believe that your book wasn't that bad, that it was a feel-good story that got misconstrued. I'm sorry no editor checked your ego at the door. If you would have stuck to the memoir, the worst would have been you outing your grandmother as crazy enough to cap a man with a six-shooter. Even that would have been too much because anybody who's Appalachian knows you don't paint your grandmother like that, J.D. Like hillbilly was the only word that could define her. Like she wasn't a homemaker like my grandmother, keeping you fed and clothed and getting the sense of needing an education into you. You couldn't even bring yourself to admit what good you had, how it advantaged you. Even being black and out of place, I can see what I had. I saw my classmates too. Here's some people I graduated with. Tyler Neal didn't come from much, but started his own timbering business and has a family doing well for himself. Cassandra Clevenger lost her mom as a young woman. She's a pharmacist now. Ariel Lake had her house burned down our senior year. She pushed and did her undergrad in 3 years and became a physical therapist. Cameron Clutter became a barber and can play a mean electric guitar. Samuel Canfield, a biologist, trying to help the changing environment. There's so many others in my class who went into a trade or healthcare or just outright working. We ain't fucking lazy. I was the only black kid in my grade for most of my time up until high school, but I know that I ain't the only black person in the whole of Appalachia. Where were people like me in that white monolith you wrote, J.D.? Tucked behind your ranting and raving on welfare queens? You just gotta pretend like we don't exist, like we're all just rust-butt ghosts and magnolia tree ornaments? You ain't been to the core of Appalachia where the wild magic is. The hollers know every skin tone. It's kind of Christian, kind of queer, kind of folk, kind of soul food and moonshine. It's perfect dirt, fishing, hunting, and playing basketball into the nighttime till we bond around bonfires. There's an empty wicker chair and a mason jar with your name on it. Come find me. Learn who we really are. It was the first time that I had heard that today, and like I said, watching him read it himself is really powerful. So we'll see if we can post that to our social media in case you'd like to see that. Another thing I'd like to say about telling a true Appalachian story is listen. There's plenty out there that works to stand down, regularize, homogenize our language. But listen, we have a mother logic language. Hone your ear. Appalachian English is rich in metaphor, in diction, in ingenuity, and inventiveness. As I said earlier, there is music in our cadences, syntax, and inflections. Hear what's really here, not what outside popular culture has said is here. And resist the shaming that insists we talk like we're from no place at all. What I've also learned through 40 years of writing stories is that to tell a real story, you have to honor the story and the art of telling it over yourself and what yourself might want. The story has its own life, its own soul, its own power. Your job as teller is to serve the story. So to tell an authentic Appalachian story, take your time in the making of it and the presentation of it. Put that Appalachian work ethic into practice. Don't rush because you want to publish more or reach an audience quicker or get reactions right away or fast track your career. In a culture that screams for quantity, Choosing quality is an act of resistance. A last thing I'll say about telling any story is trust your unconscious mind when you're making it. Storytelling, both in the creating of it and the receiving of it, opens that door between our conscious and our subconscious. Everyday American culture is pretty committed to keeping that door shut, but making art is a practice that still lets us come and go. To be cut off from our unconsciousness steals part of our humanity. And in that unconscious, in intuition, in dreams, dwell ideas, solutions, utterly fresh ways of perceiving and understanding that we need urgently in the era of disillusion and transformation we're living in right now. And speaking of that era we're in, I've been thinking a lot, and maybe you have too, about the imperative of authentic and truthful storytelling under an authoritarian regime that has built itself and sustains its rule almost entirely on false stories. How critical authentic storytelling is to counter a dominant industry, the tech industry, that uses half-truths and untruths to capture, inflame, and divide societies so its overlords can get richer. And in the face of all this, how powerful it is to tell truthful stories, to preserve true and good things through stories, to bear factual witness in our stories. And some of you might say, what do you mean? The stories that I tell, that you tell, are fictional stories. In response, I ask you to ponder that adage, fiction is the lie that tells the truth. I'd alter it to, fiction can be a lie that tells a bigger truth. It's up to us tellers if we want to tell that bigger truth. How do real stories resist the false stories in this era? Real stories can expose darkness and wrongdoing, celebrate overcomings and joys, teach truths about both historical and present injustices. I have a story for you now, a song story that does all these things. It's called Lazarus, and it was written by Mary Linscheid and Travis Steinling, and performed here by Mary Linscheid's band, The Wild Shepherds. The lyrics are on your handout if you'd like to look at the lyrics as we listen.
To the companies who came down
What else do stories do in times like these? They generate empathy. Sometimes it's difficult to feel with our hearts, our guts, the overwhelming cruelties rampant now. And likewise, it can be difficult to feel sustained compassion for those nameless souls struggling with so many different catastrophes. But we do have great capacity to empathize with the personal stories of individuals. I once heard Wendell Berry point out that public suffering means nothing if it isn't understood as compounded of an almost infinite private suffering. He went on to illustrate this with a quote from Andre Guy's World War II journals. After wandering through the battle-ravaged Tunis, Guy wrote, "Thousands of sufferings make a plateau. It's like that bed of nails you can lie down on. But one death, one instance of suffering, one Lear, one Hamlet, is the point of sorrow." Stories do exactly that. They immerse the reader in the personal stories of individual people. They dissolve that bed of nails built by information overload. Stories are one of the few arenas where you can live the life of a person different from yourself. And by living that life, you can come to feel empathy and compassion we desperately need to restore. Empathy brings us to how storytelling creates community and human connection, as it has since we human beings first started using language. By deeply listening to the stories of others and offering ours for them to hear, we see how we are alike, where we connect, and where we differ, and in a space where we can learn to respect those differences. A number of years ago, people from the Letcher County, Kentucky Committee Hub came to West Virginia University and introduced us to story circles. The methodology was developed by Roadside Theater, the theater wing of Apple Shop and Junebug Productions. With story circles, you bring people together, including strangers and people who may be very different from one another. You sit in a quiet circle, set some basic guidelines, and then offer a prompt. Tell a personal story about... Sit in silence until someone is moved to tell a story. After that first story is told, move to the next person on the left. Each person, as you go around the circle, tells a personal story that responds to the earlier stories told. You stay with the telling of your story without interpreting it or explaining it or using it to argue an agenda. As you go, everyone learns about each other without judgment. People see the similarities between each other, and you are quietly building a central collective story. Before I finish, I need to say this too. Never underestimate the power of the beauty in our stories. Beauty elevates us and demonstrates how darknesses might be transcended. Beauty inspires hope. Consider the beauty in all these stories you've heard in the last half hour. Steve Stafidi, Jesse Van Eerden, Mary Linscheid and the Wild Shoats, Torley Bush, all very different beauties from each other and also fresh beauties, and how they open and lift your heart in your listening of them. Beauty in art can be political too, can make an audience question the status quo, can shake up stagnant thinking and jolt us into original perspectives and ideas. Beauty can also simply help heal. As Phil Ochs put it several decades ago, in such ugly times, the only true protest is beauty. Finally, through stories, we can imagine into existence future worlds we want for ourselves and those we love. We envision ways of living that refuse savagery, celebrate what is right and good, and honor the lives of all humans and all other creatures too. We offer meaning in a world that to many seems more and more meaningless. We are able, as Scafidi says at the end of his poem, and you can look back to it, that's that first one that we read, the Hillbilly Break Dance and the Talking Crow, to attract some magic, to call down the blessing of an impossible thing. All right then, it's getting darker. Let the new life begin.
All right, we do have a few minutes if anybody has a question that you would like to ask Anne, or I know that there have been several of you exhibit said you were excited to meet her. If you just want to come up and say something to Anne, you're welcome to do that too.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. And Brianna, thank you so much. That was excellent. That was better than I could have done. I really appreciate your stepping in at the last minute. Thank you.
We were really excited that you're here and quite honored. And I'm from Columbus, Ohio, but I went to Athens.
Okay.
My son did, my niece does, so I feel very connected to this area. And I really loved the interpretation of the poem through art. So I hope that you get to see some of the artwork that people did based off of your poetry.
Yeah, how can I see that?
I'm gonna actually, as soon as we're done, if you can stay on for like a few more minutes.
Oh yeah.
Just share my screen because I have pictures of them. I was gonna show you.
Okay, great.
Thank you before you got to head out.
Any questions?
Any questions for me?
What's your next project?
What's your next project?
I've been working on a novel for about 5 years now. I think I can, yeah. So the next project is a novel that's of course also set in West Virginia, but it's about the relationship between climate change and environmental destruction and people's mental health, mental illness, how we are affected by that, and also how we persist and survive beyond that. So it's we'll see if I pull it off. It's a little bit ambitious. It's taken me a long time, but it feels in some ways like a natural follow-up to Strange as This Weather has been, although it's totally, there's not the same characters or anything, but the theme is kind of following that one.
Somebody just said, we can't wait.
Thank you. Thanks. That gives me more motivation. I'm trying really, I hope that the next year will be done.
Thank you. One more? Yeah.
I'm wondering Anne, do you feel like you write more for other folks from Appalachia, or do you write stories so that people from outside can know and understand? Who do you feel like you write your stories for?
All right. My first audience in mind is people in the region, for sure. That's my primary audience. That's who I want to reach and who I want to write for. But I also want to reach a wider audience, and definitely Strange as This Weather has been reached a much wider audience. But what I don't want to do is compromise any of my writing or make certain kinds of changes that will make it more accessible or digestible to people outside. They need to come. They need to meet us halfway. So both, but primarily for inside the region. And the most rewarding to me is to get feedback from people inside the region who feel that my work is true and has helped them or moved them.
Thank you. All right, Anne, if you have a minute, I was going to see if you can stay on. We're going to reverse the order of what we were going to announce. We're going to do the reverse Ekphrasis exhibit winners first, because I would love for Anne to be able to see those before we sign off the Zoom. Okay, so Casey's going to come up and run my computer. Yes, thank you. And then... To start this, Lily Paris, who we mentioned earlier as our intern, she made several videos for us, and one of the videos that she made was to champion this contest. Yes, I love the excitement back there. So we're actually going to play her video. It's just a few seconds long. We'll play that, and then we will announce all of the winners.
Strange as This Weather has been, page 106 by Enmen. And I recalled the question I tried to ask myself then, but couldn't get to, all racing like I was in my head. Now I have words for that question. What is it? What makes us feel for our hills like we do? I waited. The changing of cicadas around me, the only bird of the other insects, something small twisting through the always dead leaves. And although I didn't get the answer, I didn't even have to come to these hills to understand my life. Go up shouldered inland, then forever around your ribs, your hips, how they held you. Sit the flower, giving you always, but ready for battle, the sense of being held. It had something to do with that love.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
So that was her first one to kind of, advertise the things that were happening here and sharing some of Anne's work. And then we have another one that she did for this contest.
Have you ever really thought about what makes us human? Is it our way of communication, of words, of love? Do our words only further convey or bring us closer to one another? Dancing, singing. What if words could fly? What if words had a heart, pulsing with intention over the bond between blood and understand? What if words were only just writing on paper, but nonetheless told stories beyond the delicate ink? Stories of love, stories of loss, stories that are only ever told truly from the interpretation of your heart, determined by you.
Lily, you did fantastic with those. Thank you. All right, so the first one we are going to announce, we're going to start big. We're going to go with our student winner, and that is Olivia Moschell. So Olivia, if you could come up here, we've got some stuff for you. Congratulations, we're really proud of you. And then one of the things that Olivia got to do, there's her artwork. You can see it's inspired by Megan B's song, When the Beach is Asleep. Is Megan here? She is. She's here, and she has a surprise for Olivia, which she's going to play part of the chorus and a verse from the song. And we're going to have her art up there. So Olivia, you're welcome to stay up here, or you can have a seat, either one. But it's up to you.
I love this project so much. What beautiful artwork. When the beach is asleep under a blanket of snow, long after the summer, when all the tourists go home, I kneel down by the water, pray my soul to keep, and that's when I start dreaming, when the beach is asleep.
Beautiful. Olivia, again, thank you for entering the contest and sharing your art with us. That's great. One of the other really cool things that Olivia got to do was to nominate a teacher to receive the Teacher Award, which is $250 that goes to a teacher in her life that is helping her to share stories. And that is Sam Campbell, and she's here today. So Sam, if you could come up and introduce yourself. I'm just going to cry through all these probably. All right, our next one should be, that was Sam. Yeah, Donna Zarilla, and her piece was also, you can go to the next one to show it. It was also inspired by a Megan B song. So Donna, if you're up here, we're going to have Megan play, and then you can come up and get your certificate.
through the crosswords, through the thoughts in her brain. She always writes in pencil, never permanent ink. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think.
Thank you, Megan. Donna, here you go. We have your money and your certificate. Congratulations. Yeah, thank you. All right, go ahead. Yep, just go in order. Now we have Elise Romines. Yes, thank you. Yes. So Elise, and we'll show hers. This was inspired by a Marian Worthington poem called Ars Poetica. You can see, all of these, by the way, are over there on the wall. Many of them are for sale, so if you would like to take one of them home with you, the prices are right underneath them. You can just let one of us know or one of the steward staff know. Okay, you can go to the next one. Angie Romines, you can go ahead and come up. Go ahead and and this is one that was done inspired by one of your excerpts, so you can see it on the screen there. There you go. Thank you, Angie.
That's incredible.
Okay. And then Leah, you can go ahead and come up. Yeah? And they were both wonderful. The first one was based off of a Ron Rash poem titled Deep Water. If any of you have read that poem, it's beautiful. It's printed on the wall over there, so if any of you want to read the poems or songs or excerpts for these, go check them out. But here are your certificates and your money for those. And then the second one was inspired by Anne, and I just wanted to say, in your keynote, you used the word immersed a couple different times to describe your work and your writing, and that was the title of Leah's painting, and I just kept thinking that the whole time, like, how cool that her painting titled Immersed, and that's what she was talking about. So there's that one. And then we have second place and then our first place. So second place is Tyler Barrett, and I know he's not able to be here with us today, but this is being recorded, so we'll be able to share it with him. And Willie Edward Taylor Carver Jr. is here. He's making his way up, but he submitted two as well. His first one was based off of the Ars Poetica poem by Marian Worthington, and then the one that earned second place was a piece of art done inspired by this poem that Willie is going to read for us right now.
Thank you, Kaylee. It's an absolute honor when I found out that Power Bank was chosen for this project. And if you get a chance to see Tyler's artist statement, he's as inspiring with words as he is with images. And he said that simple lines together can do something very powerful. And yesterday, I was at a conference in Louisville for LGBTQ Kentuckians. And I went to the session on the rural-urban divide. And I think the first 30 minutes was conversation from people in metropolitan areas talking about all the things that they need to teach people in the rural areas. And I wish I just read this poem as a response. It's called The Power Bank. A few teachers tried to tell me that ain't a word, but the truth will stand when the world's on fire, as everyone's aunt always says, with raised eyebrows and lowered opinions. But on the power of ain't, my papaw fought against men in suits and built unions out of coal dust and hungry babies when he said that he ain't doing what men in suits thought was all he was ever going to be worthy of doing. But on the power of ain't, my mama learned the mystical art of transforming nothing into good cooking, into messes of beans and taters with ham hocks that her grown sons will cry out for in prison cells, because there ain't nothing that craves beauty like wine. But on the power of ain't, I set fire to everyone who stood in my way or even dared to say no. And I filled my hungry belly with their ashes and used the glow from their funeral pyres to light a path to college diplomas written in languages I learned to talk better than them. Ain't nobody can tell me that ain't a word, because the truth is they're afraid of it. It is a word of negation and power and taken back. A single pocket knife wielded stroke of breath that can hit you back with the switch it made you fetch from the tree, turn you inside out until your justice is unjust, and straight up shake the table that your game is sitting on. And there ain't nothing y'all fear like hearing the holy truth pouring out of the mouth of some dumb hillbilly.
That was fantastic. My own students also did a project at the end of last year, and several of them chose that. I think there's 1,000 reasons why, so thank you so much. And that brings us to our grand prize winner, which is Jelise Ballon. If you're here, you can go ahead and come on up. There we go. Okay, awesome. It's so cool. A lot of these people I don't know, so I get to meet them for the first time. It's so great. Was just blown away by her piece when she submitted it. I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, but it is like hand embroidered, and it's absolutely beautiful, inspired by Anne Pancake's excerpt that was in the contest.
I'll just say that as a lover of literature, I had actually read Anne, your novel earlier this year before I heard about this contest, and it stuck deep with me as a daughter of West Virginia who left for many years and came back a couple of years ago. And when I read, I don't know about the rest of you, but I see the images in a well-written piece, and Anne's book and all her writing does that. So this is the image that it conjured. It was really easy to do because her words are so beautiful and inspiring.
Congratulations. Olivia, I forgot, we have your paint as well. I'll bring you your paint here in a second. All right, so those are all of our reverse Ekphrasis winners. So Anne, thank you again so much. We'll sign off here, and then I'll connect with you here in a couple days. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody and say how honored I am, and the art is, all of it is just fantastic, but I'm deeply moved by the way that people responded to my book, and I'm very honored that they did that. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and thanks for today, and I'll be talking to you. So we are going to do our Foodways poetry winners. This is one of my favorite contests that we did. We partnered with a group called Farm to Table out in Morgan County, and invited poets to submit poems to write poems that were about Appalachian foodways. And each one of those poems was placed into a box of food that went to families in need throughout the summer for 14 weeks. So it was a 14-week program, so we chose 14 winners. And we'll just call each of you up, and if you're here, you can grab your certificate, and each one got $50 as well for being chosen as a winner. So first one is Jessica Bentley, and I believe, yeah, we can clap for her. I do believe that she emailed and said that she was not going to be able to meet. And Coleman Davis. We saw Coleman yesterday. He came down and read his poem. Haley Devore is here. Thank you, Haley. Erika Enmen. Thank you. Congratulations, Erika. Charley Charley Hoce. I don't believe he's here, but his poems, all of the poems are on the stands around the room, so you're welcome to check them out on the way through. Rebekah Jones. Amy Lee Ann Richardson. Congratulations, Amy. Sam Linkous, he was not here, he lives in New Hampshire, but he grew up here. Jean Mikhail. Daniel Miltz. Catrina Vargo. Catrina also performed on stage for us yesterday, and she did a fantastic job. Thank you. Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson also won 3rd place. He works at the elementary school that I work at, so that is exciting, but he must not be here, so I'll take it to him later. And Hillary Tucker got 2nd place for her poem. Hillary, one of her children just had a baby, so she's a new grandmother, and she was not able to make it for that reason. And then our 1st place winner was Deni Naffziger. Congratulations, Deni. So Mark, if you want to come up, one of the most exciting things that we were able to do this year was to offer a partner with Monday Creek Publishing and offer a publishing contract to the winner of a writing contest. So we invited writers to submit the first 2,500 words of their manuscripts, and then we chose 5 winners from that process. We're going to honor all 5 finalists today, and then from those 5, Monday Creek and we, as the festival, did the rubrics to score and figure out who would earn the publishing contract in the end. And so we're going to announce that today, which is really exciting. Some of you are probably kind of nervous, but I'm really excited for you anyways. So we'll start first with whoever comes up on the screen when Casey pushes the button. Oh wait, hang on, before he does that. Good.
All right, so I'm real good about writing notes and never following them. So if I go back and forth, just bear with me. Monday Creek Publishing is in itself an Appalachian success story. Gina Andre McKnight started this approximately 10 years ago. Right now she's got 43 authors that she publishes for. She has 132 pieces of work that she's put out into the community. And she is a true daughter of Appalachia, and I'm just so proud of being part of this. And I got into this, I've published about 7 books through Gina, and it's an amazing thing that I'm even here. What I would tell those of you in the audience that haven't written anything, just start, just do it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't let perfect be an enemy of creativity. Just start writing. If you've got that little red underlined doohickey that helps you spell, take it off and just get it out there and make it happen. But this is a very exciting thing for this community. You know, there's a lot of people here that, you know, we heard about, you know, the earth, the issues that we've had locally, you know, just battling things. And I was very moved by Ann's talk today. And I wrote a couple notes, but the one thing that I really am going to take back with me is deeply listen. You know, deeply listen, you know, and it could be in the middle of an airport, it could be in a crowded wherever you are, but that cadence is there. The cadence is there, the cadence is there. You know, and it's the sound of Appalachia that just sneaks up on you, grabs you, holds you. And the projects that were submitted were very exciting. The other word I'd like to say is I am deeply humbled to even be here. You know, if you haven't had the opportunity, I want to thank stewards and also, you know, this contest for bringing people into this historic area. I mean, just go back and take a look at the creative minds that have passed through the Opry House. I mean, there's some people that have come through here that are legends, you know, in the industry that they work within, and here we are. I mean, we're sharing a beautiful Sunday, you know, to celebrate your creativity, and I'm very excited for those of you who have been recognized today. For those of you who are aspiring, I didn't know my months until I was about 11. I didn't find out until my 30s that I was dyslexic. My first spelling bee, or 100 of that on my spelling test, my parents were so proud they made it into an ashtray. You know, my dad being 1950s dude, he put his unfiltered Campbells in there, you know, and I went back and they finally gave it to me. I looked at it, my teacher had actually corrected a word. So I didn't get 100, but, you know, it's something that just really made me, you know, realize that you can conquer what you want to. Don't have a musical bone in my body. I bought an Irish tenor banjo from a young woman that was watching our horses. We live outside Stroud's Run, just down the road. And so bad at it, couldn't get it tuned. I took it into Blue Eagle, and the guy said, "You're left-handed?" I said, "No, I'm not left-handed." He goes, "Well, this is a left-handed banjo." Anyway, long story short, none of my stories are short, but sorry about that. Joined an Irish band down there, and I lived in mortal fear. Spent 21 years in the Army. I've jumped out of airplanes. I've done this, I've done that. Get me to sing in front of anybody. I mean, your voice is beautiful. You know, I'm that croaking toad somebody stepped on, but I sang my first verse the other night, and it's just like, what's left? You know, what else can I do? But I challenge you to grab a hold of that creativity within yourself and do something with it, because the storytelling, particularly as Ann talked about, is a true cultural piece of what we do. You know, whether you're from Belfast or, you know, Gloucester, wherever the case is, just grab it, hold on to it, because we owe the next generation. You know, young people like Tanner, I mean, that's so exciting that she even got up here in front of you all. You know, and pass it on. I mean, the pen is mightier than the sword, and we've got a lot of swords out there poking people, so just, you know, keep that in mind as you go down your creative road. But this a beautiful experience we've got going on here. And what I actually will get into this, but before we announce the winner, I do have something to say about that project.
Awesome, thank you, Mark. So the first person that we are going to recognize is one of our finalists, and that is Haley Devore. Haley, if you could come up, we've got a certificate for you. We've got a packet of goodies in there too. Thank you. Yeah. And then we have Lachey Goff. If you could come up. Another one of our finalists. Thank you, Lachey. And our third place winner was Amy Leanne Richardson. So Amy, sorry, you have to walk all the way back up here. Thank you, Amy. And second place is Joshua Dyer. Now Joshua is not here because he is active duty in the military and he is at home on duty this weekend. But he did get second place, so we'll send this recording to him after there today. Congratulations, Joshua.
I just realized I know Josh. He was one of my ROTC cadets down in Athens. That's crazy. Before we announce the winner, what I would love to say, really going back to what Ann said, is that this piece of work had an amazing cadence. And you could tell that the author took time. I think personally that this piece of work has been written over decades because the attention to detail, just in the Appalachian setting, you know, whether you're driving out in Murray City or over in Chester Hill or something like that, it was there. And unless you're from, you would appreciate that as you read it, but when you're from here, you're thinking, holy smokes, this person really understands what our community's about. So this year's winner
is George Wood. Going to say a couple words if you want. You want to say something? All right, go ahead.
There's money. Just a couple words of thanks. First, to the crew that put this on, Kaylee and your crew. And I know there's school teachers, and I'm a school superintendent. They work way harder than I do. And I just a round of applause for these guys. The Monday Creek crew, this is a big risk for them. They jump out there and say, you're going to send in some manuscripts, we're going to choose one, you're going to help us, and you're going to publish it. That's not usually how it works, so I want to thank them. I'd like to thank all the other authors that help you along the way, and some of them I met, and they're on some of your tables. We do this little workshop in Amesville, and Donna's been there, and Keith has been there, and Carrie's been there. Ann was one of our speakers 2 years ago. Megan's been there, sang for us, and done many things. If you want a flyer about it, let me know. It's a really great celebration. This year we've got Lee Martin, Michael Ford, and Carrie Gunter Seymour be one of our featured art speakers here. So thanks. And finally, I have to thank Marcia Birchby. You're right. This took me about 11 years to write. So it's been a labor of love. And Marcia, my wife, has lived with these characters from Clemens running around our house every day. I think she's the only person that's actually read the manuscript twice. And she keeps hearing me talk about Ike and Miles and Caroline. And she looks at me and says, who are you talking about now? And I think she is so glad I finally have somebody else to talk to about it. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mark, for helping do all this and all of that. That was great. We're hoping that George will join us again next year with a reading of part of his book. I haven't told him that yet, but we'll see what he has to say this time next year. All right, so I believe that brings us to the final part of the brunch, which is our Deni Award. So if you are on our committee, if you could come up here. All the Deni Awards are over on that shelf behind the bar. You just grab a couple and come up and stand by them. That'd be great. So the Deni Awards are really special. We created them last year in honor of one of the poets who's actually in the room. She won our Foodways competition, Deni Naffziger. She does a lot of work with Passion Works in Athens and helping some of the artists and clients there learn how to write poetry to tell their story in that way. And we just really love her dedication to that and making sure that, you know, she does so much work to help people share their stories. So we wanted the awards that we give out annually to be something that does that same thing. So what we try to do is all the different types of stories that are submitted each year, we have an award for each kind of category. So we will give those out here in a second, but I want to invite Jen up here. So Jen is the one that helped me make these. She made the whole form and everything, and helped glaze them, but the clay itself is really special this year, so I want her to explain that a little bit.
And you can see as Kaylee's holding it up how the clay body is a darker clay body. So I wrote a little something about the clay body, probably easier if I just go through it. But first I wanted to say thank you to this festival. I find it so educational and encouraging and really good for the soul. I am pleased to have this opportunity to make pottery with Kaylee and with the help of a local ceramic artist and friend, Kelly Shaw. This year we chose to use the Nelsonville clay body. This clay body was formulated to look and feel like the world-famous star brick of Nelsonville, Ohio. The materials that would have been found in this area are what and harvested are what make it have its color and feel. So when you're out on the square, you can see the actual star bricks, and they have been collected and used all over the world. And you'll be in places and find bricks like those and similar to them, and you can actually see history on the kilns. I think Miranda has had a display about it. Right, so you can see the display about the bricks on the back table there. Columbus Clay Company worked hard to find the right combination of frit, magnesium, and iron, and more to make this clay body for us. We had several local potters try various test tiles, and we were interested to see the different variances in colors, and just like the actual bricks, it still comes out different from the materials that they use with the different batches that they make for us. So I thought that was interesting. We really weren't quite sure what this color was going to look like as we made it. When we first used it, it was dark brown. When we bisque fired it to about 1,800 degrees, it was like a pink, and it had not very many speckles, and then we finished and fired it, it came out with the dark brown clay. So it's kind of interesting that this clay body was formulated to look like our bricks. More and more, I'm finding that the importance of each piece or work of art, and this festival really brought it out. It's very encouraging here. Thank you to the Appalachian Literary Arts and Storytelling Festival supporting the arts in our region.
All right, thank you, Jen. So without further ado, we'll just go in the order that they are on the screen. So the first one is to George Wood. He earned the Deni Award for Fiction this year. You can come up. Thank you, congratulations. The next one is going to True Pigments for the Deni Organization Award. Congratulations. And thank you for doing what you do. It's awesome. And we have, we gave this one away last night. Chris Cooper was the winner of the Story Slam, so he got the 2025 Deni Telling Award. And Megan B. is the winner of the 2025 Deni Songwriting Award. Congratulations. And then Deni, you have won an award in your own name, and that's so fun because we did a poetry one. So Deni, you are the winner of the 2025 Deni Poetry Award. And the Art Award goes to Jelise Ballon, 2025 Deni Art Award. And then the Workshop Award for this year goes to Talcon Quinn and Christina Benedetti. But don't believe that they're here, so I'll just that. The 2025 Deni Reading Award is going to go to Haley Devore. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Haley read in like 4 or 5 different things that, yesterday because she won the Foodways, she won the, she was one of the finalists for the manuscripts, and she was in the holiday poetry competition we did, and she submitted her own book of poetry and read from that too. So she definitely earned her 2025 award. And then we have one for filmmaking for Lily Harris for all the hard work that she did. She made some really beautiful films this year. She had no idea this was going to happen. And then the last one goes to Anne. for the 2025 Deni Literature Award. I forgot I put that earlier when she was here. So I'll reach out and get that one to her. But those are our awards. I didn't miss any, did I? No, we're good. And the mugs are still the same. Yeah, so look at that, 9 minutes early. So as you guys are packing up and heading out, please check out the art. If any of you are interested in purchasing any of those, let us or Stewart staff know. And yeah, thank you guys all for coming. I hope we see you next year.